All right, cool. So we're talking about volume today, and we're going to cover all volume of prisms and of cylinders today. So we got to work diligently. A couple things that we need to talk about what volume is first before we can just dive right into the formulas and before we can dive right into solving it. Okay? So, real world example. What determines how much something will hold? What do you think it is? The volume of it. What determines how much something will hold is the volume. Hey guys, your conversation is now over. Thank you. You're done talking. Volume is the measure of the space an object occupies. It's the measure of a space an object occupies. So how much space something takes up. Y'all have volume, right?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because we need it.
Because you all take up space. You all have different volumes. If you're, who do you think has a bigger volume? Kobe? Why? Because he is taller, a little bit stronger. Who has a slightly smaller volume?
Dryas.
Okay, why? He's shorter, a little bit smaller, right? So that's how volume works. The more space something takes up, that's funny. The more space something takes up, the more volume it has. Now, volume is measured in what? Cubic, which is different than area. Area is measured in what? Squared units. Volume is measured in cubic units because cubed is 3D, three-dimensional, right? Cubic units is cubed. So you take your measurement and you cube it, and that's what our measurement's going to be. Because, well, it's measured in 3 dimensions. It's important. So, if we have this shape, this is not in your notes, this is time to listen, time to engage in our preview. If we have this shape, to find the volume, what do I do? Well, actually, to find out what the volume is, I need to find out how many cubes, right, because the units are cubed. Find out how many cubes fill up the bottom. How many cubes fill up the bottom? 40, right? How do you know that that there are 40 cubes in the bottom?
Because if there's 10 rows of them, because like there's 10
Yep.
the length or whatever, and then you can have 4 to like the side or whatever.
Yeah, we would call it like 10 rows, 4 columns,
Yeah.
right? That would be a good way of explaining that. I like that you use the word rows. And then there's 4 rows of 10, right? So that'd be 40. But then on top of that, what we need to do is now we need to multiply the base area. How much is on the base? Times the height. Why? Because how many layers of 40 are there?
3.
There's 3 layers. That's what volume actually is. That is how we determine it. We figure out how much space the base takes up, and then how many layers. Right? It's like an ogre. It has layers. Right? Like an onion. Why not like a parfait maybe? Maybe a parfait? Parfaits have layers. People like parfaits. So this is how many layers of the parfait there are. So not only are there 40 spaces or 40 boxes on the base, then there's 3 layers of that. So what is the volume of this thing? If there's 40 boxes on the base and then there's 3 layers, 120 cubic centimeters. Why? Because there's 40 on the base and then 3 layers of that base.
Base times width.
So, to find the volume, the formula of the volume of any figure. Now, many of you guys might be thinking, well, it's length times width times height. It's not. Why? Because this is the volume for any figure. Length times width times height is not the volume formula for any figure. I'm sharing with you guys the way you can find the volume for everything, no matter what. That's not true. The volume of any prism, of anything that's like this. It's not the formula for this. It's not the formula for a sphere. But it's the volume for almost any figure, right? For almost any figure. So it's V equals, and notice, capital B, H. Capital B is very important.
Oh, because if it's otherwise base times height.
Exactly.
Small b.
If it's a small b, what does it mean?
Base
Base times height. What do you think capital B means from our explanation earlier? Area of the base. What did we find first in that explanation? Area of the base. Capital B is different than lowercase b. What does lowercase b mean?
The base.
Base. What does capital B mean?
Area of the base.
Good, so I'm going to be a big stickler today when I ask you for the formula. If you say base times height, in my head I'm going to like kick something. Maybe I'll be like, ah! I'll do that. I'll do that. If I ask you for the volume formula and you tell me base times height, I'll say area? And you'll be like, oh, it's not area, it's volume. capital B, H. Capital BH. Everybody say capital BH.
Capital B.
Good, which is different than base times height. So that means H is not just any old height. H is what?
Area.
Nope. That was funny. You guys all answered a different question than what I asked. Y'all answered a different question. So, what is the area formula? Excuse me, let me rephrase that, sorry. What is the volume formula for any figure?
Capital BH.
Capital BH, which means what?
Area of the base.
Base times height of the figure. Okay, that's big. So let's just go ahead and find some volumes. Okay, so I've got this volume. This is what it is. First thing we want to do is we want to identify the base. I know that this might seem silly, but it is very helpful. Writing down what the base is and drawing it is very, very helpful. Okay? So, I want you to write this down. Base is a what? Base is a what? What is the base in this shape? What shape is the shape? What shape is the base?
Rectangle.
A rectangle. So everybody write base is a rectangle at the top of this problem. And now we want to draw it. Do you see how in your notes it says draw and label? So let's draw that base. I know it might seem silly initially, but it is very helpful. What are the dimensions of the base?
10 by 2.5.
Exactly, 10 by 2.5, which means we can find that area quite easily. Now notice, this is the base right here. Okay? That's the base. Capital B. So let's find it. Area equals what?
A equals B times H.
Why B times H?
Because you're doing the area of the figure.
Area of the rectangle, right? Isn't the base a rectangle? So we need to find its area. We need to find the area of the base so we can multiply times the height. And that's 10 times 2.5, which is pretty easy to do in our head. 25 meters squared. Now what is that? This represents the area of the base. But now I'm ready for volume. Once I have the area of the base, I'm ready for volume. What do I do with this area? I plug it in right here. Because what does this thing mean? What does it mean? Area of the base. And what is the area of our base?
25.
25. So we have 25 times what? 2. Where'd that 2 come from?
The height.
That's the height of our figure. Okay? And that's 50 meters cubed. How do I know that that's my volume? Because notice, 10 meters times 2.5 meters times 2 meters. This is where that length times width times height idea that you guys are all thinking about comes into play. And it only works for rectangular prisms. That's why I don't teach it. That length times width times height only works for rectangular prisms. So if you want to write that down, if you want to use length times width times height, you better write down a note to yourself that it only works for rectangular prisms. Okay? Feel free to use length times width times height for what shapes? Good. What about for cylinders? Should we use length times width times height? Is there a length and width in a cylinder?
No.
No. What is there?
Circumference.
Circumference. There's a radius. There's a diameter. There's a height.
There's a height.
In a cylinder, yeah. Remember height of the cylinder?
Which is actually a circumference of the plate.
Yeah. I mean, so the thing to think about is it, and this is a question for you to answer for yourself. Is it in my best interest to think length times width times height, or is it in my best interest to think volume equals capital BH, or capital B is the area of the base? It's up to you to decide. I would recommend you convert your thinking from length times width times height to V equals capital BH. Everybody say V equals capital BH. Why do we use a capital B?
Because the base area.
Because it stands for area of the base. So what should I find first? Area of the base. Then what should I do? I should plug that in for what it means. That's why I draw this little arrow. It helps me remember to plug it in. Okay, questions on this problem? Let's do the next one. Find the volume of the following. Okay, so we need to first identify what the base is. I know it seems silly, but we're going to write it down. You're going to write down base is a, and what is it? A triangle. So we're going to draw that triangle. Let's remember what the base is. This is a triangular prism, right? So the base is a triangle. Notice where the height is on that triangle. Do you see the red marking? So let's draw that height in the way that it's labeled. So it's drawn in like this. Little box to the right. And we have 4 millimeters. And the height is 6 millimeters. So I'm gonna be honest with you. The reason why I draw it out is so that I can focus my attention on the base. Because what do I need to know to find volume? The area of that base, don't I? Because volume is by definition, it's the number of layers of the base, right? So if I know the area of the base, then I can just stack it layers. How many layers are there gonna be in this?
5.
There's gonna be 5 layers. So once I know the area of the base, then I can do this. Now, your tendency, what you wanna do right now, several of you wanna multiply 4 times 6. And that's super wrong. Why?
Because that's not how you find the area of a triangle.
That's not the area of a triangle. This is why we write down the formulas. So, go over there. What is the area formula for a triangle?
1/2.
Okay, do you remember, do you see now why length times width times height's not gonna work?
Yeah.
Why?
Because
There's a half floating in here. There's no length, width, and height. It's not gonna work. So 1/2 what times what? 6 times 4. Because here's the deal. Actually, it's 4 times 6. But does that really matter in the grand scheme of math? No, but I want to make sure it looks right for the video. Half of 4 is, times 6 is, 12 millimeters squared. Now what do I do with that value? Can I recommend that you actually write down the volume formula? If you write down the volume formula, then you will understand what you're actually doing. If you write down the volume formula, not only will it will help you remember it, but 2, you'll understand what you're doing more. So capital B is what value? Area of the base. What is the numeric value in this problem? 12. And the height? 5, right? One thing to pay attention to, this value, right here, you're looking at what I'm pointing at? This value will never be used over here, ever. But Mr. Strand, there's an H and there's an H. Yeah, there is. But we're talking about different things, aren't we? What does this H stand for? The height of the triangle, right? What does this H stand for? So this is the reason why I split it up the way I do. Because there's multiple H's. Well, let's do this first, then plug it in. It's 2 separate ideas. This is area of the base, this is volume, okay? It helps to split it up.
Why don't they make like the H for the area of the whole figure a capital H or something like
In high school, I do. If you want to make that H capital, be my guest. Yes. Because in high school, when I was teaching geometry, it was capital B, capital H. Where capital B stood for area of the base and capital H stood for height of the solid. If you want to make capitals, make capitals. Yeah, that's fine. And this equals 60 millimeters cubed. All right, let's go a little faster through the next few. Questions on this one? All right, last one that we're going to do really fast. Volume of the following. What is the volume of this? What is this? We need to identify what the base is. The base is a circle. Let's say circle, everybody.
Circle.
And I want you to draw it. I know it seems silly, but I want you to draw it. That way you can focus your attention on it. Notice all of the space to the right of this. You should use that space. It's a circle. Draw it and label it. What do I need to label? Radius is 10. Now, area equals. We need to find the area of that base. What is the area of this base? Well, how do we find it? Look at the right formula, please. Area equals what, Saeed? Pi r squared. All right. Pi times what squared? 10 squared, which is 100 pi, which I bet you can do in your head. What's 100 times 3.14? 314 yards squared. What do I do with that area? How many layers are there going to be of that area? 15 layers, right? So V equals capital B H. I'm putting that into this. Guys, I'm going to be honest, I draw the arrow every time. It helps me remember what to do with this value. 314 times 15 to get, well, this is an approximation, so 4,710. I know that you guys really, really wanted to plug that in your calculator, but I didn't let you. Questions? Did you see how it's the same process for all of these? The key is remembering what? The formulas for the areas. If you split these up like I do, it will be in your best interest. Now, last problem, we're only going to do one of these two examples. Sometimes you'll be given the volume and be asked to find something else. If you're given the volume, we still set this up in the exact same way. So we might be able to find the area of the base or find the height. Now, if the volume of a, notice what does it say? Volume of a, that should be your big key indicator. The volume of a rectangular prism is 60 meters cubed. And the length is 3 meters. The width is 5 meters. What is the height? Well, how do we set this one up? How do we solve? Well, we find out what the base is. What is the base? The base is a rectangle. You need to write that down. How do you know the base is a rectangle, Tori? Because it straight up tells you, right? Rectangular prism. What if on the next problem, read it real fast. Tell us what the base is going to be on the next problem. Circle. So we should draw this base, shouldn't we? The length is what? 3. The width is 5. So hey, look, I can find the area of the base.
15.
Area of the base equals base times height, which is 3 times 5, which is 15. You're absolutely right. Now, what do I do with that? What is this? This is the area of the base. Well, I need to bring it here, don't I? So I need to be like, all right, 15 times what? Uh-oh. 15 times what? I don't know that value, right? It's h. It says, what is the height? What is the height? That means it's h. What are we given? Volume is 60, which means that I can plug in for v. This is a simple, and I say simple, one-step equation. Why is this a simple one-step equation? Just divide. Exactly. And it's 4. 4 what? Meters. 4 meters. That's the only one we're going to do. You can do the cylinder on your own while I pass the homework out, and I will show you the answer to the cylinder one while I pass the homework out. I want you doing the next one. I'll show you the answer in just a moment. Okay? I don't know why I did that. In my head, capital H makes more sense than little h. Because capital H is the height of the whole thing. H is the height of the base. Be working on the last one. While I pass out the homework, I want you doing the last one. Follow the steps I've already laid out for you.
Look at my stuff.
Kobe. All right, here we go.
Oh, bet.
Check your answers with mine. Notice because the base is a circle, we find the area of that base and then plug it into the formula. But notice you're given volume, not h. So we found the area of the base. We were given volume. We need to work backwards. What if we were given the height and needed to find the radius? What if we needed to find the radius? Well, then we would divide by h and then divide by pi square root. I won't ask you to do that, but you could, okay?